Four men sat down at a counter and helped change the country. The anniversary of that momentous occasion coming up in this edition of CNN Student News. First up, President Obama lays out his recommendations for next year's federal budget. This is kind of like something that your family might make. It looks at how much is being spent versus how much is being earned and saved, except as you might expect, the government's budget is a lot bigger. $3.8 trillion. That's the price tag on the president's proposal. Here's some of what's included. $3 billion to help pay for education programs, more than $6 billion set aside for green technologies, things that help the environment, and more than $700 million to install new body scanners at airports. The budget would also cancel some tax cuts for families that earn more than $250,000 a year, so their taxes would likely increase. And money for a NASA program aimed at sending man back to the moon, that would be canceled too. An important point to keep in mind, though, all of these are just suggestions. Congress is the one who actually approves the budget. Dana Bash gives us an inside look at that process.
This is where the president's budget director will come for his first hearing, and he'll face lawmakers and try to discuss and explain all of what is in here and what the president's priorities are. But I have something pretty cool for you. We take you behind the scenes. We are going to take you behind the curtain, literally. Come with me. I'm just going to put this down. Come with me, and I'll show you what's going on here in the House Budget Committee room. We have Democratic staff and the chairman himself, the House Budget Chairman, going through, as you said, line by line. They just received the budget. They are going through line by line to see exactly what's in it. This is what you all do and what they do every year when they get the president's budget, no matter who the president is. And I want to come over and actually talk to the chairman, Mr. Spratt. Mr. Spratt.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're not getting up.
No, please have a seat. You have a lot of work to do here.
We do.
Now, I was trying to explain this to our viewers earlier, that obviously this is the president's budget. It's his priorities. But it's you all in Congress who have the power of the purse. So what is your job here?
Since 1921, the president has had the power, formal power, to propose a budget to Congress. But from the beginning of the Republic, the Congress has held the purse strings. We were the ones who really wrote and provided the budget based upon what the president requested.
So just because the president is asking for specific things in here, increases in education spending or maybe more difficult things like a spending freeze, doesn't mean he's necessarily going to get it.
We passed judgment on all of the president's proposals.
We know what's causing the problem, and we know what we have to do to fix it. The words of Toyota's U.S. president talking about malfunctioning gas pedals that affected millions of vehicles. The company says new parts already being shipped to dealers. Toyota plans to cover all repair costs. The company's president went on YouTube to offer his apologies to customers.
I want to sincerely apologize to Toyota owners. I know that our recalls have caused many of you concern, and for that, I am truly sorry. I want you to know that all 172,000 Toyota and dealership employees across North America will work hard to fix your vehicle properly and regain your trust.
Is this legit? Vancouver is one of Canada's 10 provinces. Not legit. Vancouver is a city. It's located in the Canadian province of British Columbia.
And Vancouver's about to be the center of the sporting world. It is hosting this year's Winter Olympics, which begin in less than 2 weeks. In order to keep the games safe, Canada has launched the largest security operation in the country's history, on land, on the sea, in the air. Jean Meserve reports on some of what's involved in all that.
A Canadian Navy diver plunges into frigid water off Vancouver, honing his underwater bomb detection skills, a small part of a massive effort to keep the Olympics safe.
We prepared for the worst case scenarios, which includes terrorism, and we'll be able to respond to the worst case scenarios.
The murder of 11 Israeli coaches and athletes by Palestinian militants at the 1972 Munich Games has hung over every Olympics since. The threat of international terrorism in Vancouver is currently assessed as low. The bigger concern, domestic political protests. The Olympic torch relay has been disrupted several times by demonstrators. At critical locations in Vancouver, some roads are already closed. Police presence is heavy, and 900 surveillance cameras stud security fencing. You see the cameras everywhere, but officials say there will be other technology to detect chemical, biological, and radiological threats. Massive inflatable barriers keep boat traffic away from cruise ships that will house some of the 15,000 security personnel. Military, police, and Coast Guard all patrol to keep the city safe and commerce moving in Canada's largest port.
Today's shout-out goes out to Mr. O'Brien's senior government classes at Warrenton High School in Warrenton, Oregon. What military conflict is known as the war to end all wars? Is it Civil War, World War I, World War II, or Korean War? You've got 3 seconds. Go! World War I is referred to as the war to end all wars. It's also known as the Great War. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
The last surviving American who served in that war celebrated his 109th birthday yesterday. More than a dozen friends and family gathered in West Virginia to wish former Corporal Frank Buckles a happy birthday. He said he's made it to 109 thanks to the desire to live and a purpose for living. And he talked about what he believes that purpose is.
I realize that my position is a representative of the veterans of World War I.
That role is part of why Buckles has been urging lawmakers to recognize and renovate a World War I memorial in Washington, D.C. Last December, he went in front of Congress and asked for the memorial to be officially designated as a national monument. Well, this week also marks the 50th anniversary of a historic moment in the U.S. civil rights movement. It happened when 4 college students sat down at a lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. In 1960, the Woolworth's counter was for whites only, and these 4 men were African American. They were refused service, but they sat their ground and helped launch a wave of sit-ins across the southern U.S. The Greensboro Four, as they came to be known, wanted to bring attention to the issue of racism. Recently, one of the group, Joseph McNeil, talked about the experience.
We felt very strongly about what we were doing, and we were serious. And to defy a law like segregation and a habit meant that we had to have very strong convictions. So we were hopeful that we would be able to make others aware of the evils of segregation. And while we were hopeful that others would follow us, we weren't exactly sure that would happen.
In the half-century since that Woolworth sit-in, the lunch counter and stools have never been moved. Now they're part of the International Civil Rights Center and Museum. The 3 surviving members of the Greensboro Four were all scheduled to attend yesterday's opening ceremony. The museum's goal? To inspire people to step forward in the struggle for human freedom. And its chairman says it's a way for future generations to appreciate the past.
This is a time where we want the students, young people like my son here, that's 18 years old now. He was only 2 years old when we started this museum. And we wanted to make sure that his generation and generations yet unborn would be able to appreciate what these 4 young men did 50 years ago. So 50 years from now, they'll be able to come to this museum, be able to see the lunch counter, and appreciate what happened on that day, so that they'll be able to have the privileges that they're being able to have today.
For classroom materials and more information about the Greensboro Four, go here. You're looking at our website, cnnstudentnews.com, and if you scroll down to the middle of the front page, you see right there in the Spotlight section, there will be links to the information I just told you about, as well as Black History Month question and activities, all free, all yours, all at cnnstudentnews.com. Before we go, today is Groundhog Day, but one Washington city didn't want to wait for Punxsutawney's prediction. So it turned to Snohomish Slew. That's the frog. And he's the star of Snohomish's annual Ground Frog Day. Real original name. No shadows here. The prognosticator looks up at the sky and then shares his prediction with his handlers. Apparently they speak frog. This year the frog's forecasts an early end to winter, but he might just be pulling our leg. It's one riveting story, but if it doesn't put a hop in your step, we will be back with more tomorrow on CNN Student News. See you then.